I didn't find out about the will from my parents. I found out from my cousin. We were at a family gathering when she pulled me aside and said, I didn't know how to tell you this, but your sister mentioned something strange. My stomach tightened. What? She said your parents already finalized their will. Everything goes to her. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it sounded absurd. That can't be right, I said. They never mentioned anything like that. She sounded very sure, my cousin replied, like it was already done. I didn't confront my parents immediately. I didn't want to believe gossip. I told myself there had to be some misunderstanding. A week later, I visited them for dinner. Everything felt normal. My mom complained about the weather. My dad watched the news loudly. My sister scrolled through her phone, smirking at something. I watched her carefully. She kept looking at me with a strange expression. Not hostile, not friendly, just satisfied. That's when I knew the rumor wasn't random. After dinner, I asked casually, have you guys made a will? My mom froze for half a second before answering. Why would you ask that? Just curious, I said calmly. My dad cleared his throat. Yes, we have. It's a responsible thing to do. I nodded. That's good. How did you divide things? Silence filled the room. My sister didn't look up from her phone, but I saw the corner of her mouth lift. My mom said quickly, these things are private. No need to discuss them. That was my confirmation. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I just smiled slightly. Of course. Inside, something settled. Not anger. Clarity. On the drive home, I replayed the conversation in my head. The hesitation, the avoidance, my sister's expression. They had done it, and they hadn't told me. The next morning, my sister texted me out of nowhere. Hope you're planning your future, wisely smiling face with smiling eyes. That smiley face said everything. She wanted me to know. She wanted me to feel it. I didn't reply. I spent the next few days thinking, not reacting. I thought about all the years I had helped my parents financially, all the hospital visits I had managed, all the responsibilities I had taken on without being asked. And yet, when it came to their final decision, I was erased quietly, not because I had done something wrong, but because my sister had always known how to play their emotions better than I ever tried to. I didn't feel betrayed in a dramatic way. I felt released. If they had already decided my value in their lives, then I no longer had to prove it. A week later, I visited again. This time, I didn't ask about the will. I asked my dad, do you still need help managing your property papers? He said, yes, I was going to ask you actually. I smiled. I won't be able to do that anymore. He looked surprised. Why? I'm focusing on my own priorities now, I said calmly. My mom frowned. You've changed recently. Yes, I replied. I've learned to. My sister watched the exchange quietly. She was waiting for me to explode, to accuse, to fight. I did none of that because I had understood something important. They had already made their decision in silence. Now I was making mine. After that visit, I didn't distance myself loudly. I simply stopped being available. No more handling bank forms. No more hospital appointments. No more property document reviews. No more last minute, can you just take care of this? Calls. The first time my dad called asking for help with some legal papers, I said calmly, you should ask the person who will be handling everything in the future. He didn't understand. What do you mean? I mean, it makes sense for her to start learning now, I replied. He went quiet. 2 days later, my sister called me. What's your problem? She snapped. I don't have one, I said. Mom said you refused to help Dad. Yes. Why? Because I'm no longer involved in things I'm not part of. She knew exactly what I meant. You're being dramatic over nothing, she said. It's just a will. I smiled. Exactly. It's just a will. And this is just a boundary. She didn't like that. She wanted anger. She wanted confrontation. She wanted something she could report back to my parents as proof that I was overreacting. Instead, she got calm logic. Over the next few weeks, small cracks began to appear in their comfort. My dad had to visit government offices himself. My mom had to deal with paperwork she never paid attention to before. My sister, who had always stayed away from responsibility, was suddenly being asked questions she didn't know how to answer. One evening, my mom called sounding irritated. "Your sister doesn't understand any of these documents," she complained. "You used to do this in minutes." "I'm sure she'll learn," I said gently. "It's important for her future." "But you're better at it." "Yes," I said, "but it's not my future." She had no reply to that. The reality of their decision was starting to show. They hadn't just changed a name on paper. They had shifted responsibility onto someone who had never carried it before, and removed the one person who always had. A month later, I heard from a relative that my parents were arguing more than usual. My sister was stressed. My dad was frustrated. Things weren't running as smoothly as before. Not because I had done anything, but because I had stopped doing everything. Then one afternoon, my dad showed up at my house unexpectedly. He looked older, tired. "We need to talk," he said. I let him in. He sat down and looked around quietly. "You've really stepped back from us." I stepped into my own life, I corrected softly. He sighed. "Your mother told me what you think about the will." "I don't think anything about it," I said. "You made a decision. I respected it." "That's not how it feels," he replied. I didn't argue. He leaned forward. "You've always been the dependable one, the one we trusted." I nodded. "I know." "Then why are you acting like this?" "Because being dependable and being valued are two different things," I said calmly. That sentence stayed in the air. For the first time, he wasn't defensive. He was listening. "You never said you felt this way," he murmured. "You never asked," I replied. Later that week, my mom called me crying. "Your father is very upset. The house feels tense. Your sister keeps saying we should have discussed things properly." I listened quietly. Then I said, "I'm not upset. I'm just not participating anymore." "But you're part of this family," she said. I replied, "In actions, not in decisions." That hit her harder than shouting ever could. Because it was true. I had always shown up when needed. They had quietly removed me when it mattered most. And now they were feeling the weight of that imbalance. I didn't ask them to change the will. I didn't demand fairness. I didn't threaten anything. I simply allowed them to live inside the decision they had made without me. And slowly, they began to realize how much of their stability had depended on someone they had treated as optional. Months later, my mom said softly, "We didn't realize what we were losing." I smiled. "You didn't lose me. You just stopped counting me." They understood then, not from anger, from absence,